Hey
everybody, welcome back to the Caves Cast podcast. I'm Jeremy.
And I'm Ryan.
This week's book is not Sesame Street. It's the Ultimates number
I
5.
was about to be like,
Sesame
what is
Street
that?
is
Is that the back?
Sesame Street is for my kid, man.
Hey.
It's so funny. Before we get started on Ultimates, every week now I come home with my post. She's like, "Is there something for me?" And I'm like,
Oh
because
man.
most
So
times
like
like
every
I'll bring,
week now you gotta bring
yeah,
home something.
yeah, and I do most weeks. Like this week, last week was Sesame Street. This week was Powerpuff Girls.
Dude, you're
Um,
gonna need to get her her own little small
Dude,
box.
I already have one. She's
Dude,
got
that's
like a
awesome.
cool, like probably like stack of like 30 now.
Oh man, that's so cool.
Yeah. Let's see. Like next up will be like Spider-Man Homeroom Heroes. That doesn't have an all ages tag on it, but it is pretty much for all ages.
Right.
And then Spidey and His Amazing Friends in December, but like she gets probably like at least one book a week now.
Right. I mean,
So
it's Jeff is coming out soon too.
yeah, that's right. The Venom War It's Jeff will be out too. She'll probably like that. No,
Yeah.
and then that's the other thing. All the like Marvel Unlimited stuff, if it's like it's Jeff or it's like the animal stuff, she'll read it with me. So
Yeah.
which
Before we get into this book, though, I want to talk about the news that was dropped today about a new Ultimate title.
oh, I know,
What?
dude. Yeah, okay. So if anybody hasn't been following along with them New York Comic Con announcements, well, shame on you because they do it every year. They always but big comic announcements out at this Comic Con. Uh Ultimate Wolverine.
Out of
Dude,
nowhere, too. They did not hint
yeah,
at any of the Ultimate
I
books that
I
a Wolverine
know.
even existed. So
I
that
had seen an article saying that he showed up. He was teased at the very beginning. I don't remember that, but it's also entirely possible, like when the maker was going through all of the different.
probably because those issues were so dense, those Ultimate Invasion
Yeah,
were really dense and big, and there was,
yeah,
like I said, I even want to just go through them again because remember I said at the beginning it shows like prisoners and people that like
yeah,
Maker, you know what I
yeah,
mean? So I'm sure like in hindsight now, if I go back and look at it, I'll be like, oh, this will all make sense.
yeah. I'm no, I'm sure that there is a reference to him, or he's like at least in a panel. But
Okay.
yeah, that was a nice surprise, man.
Yeah, and it's Chris Condon
Yeah,
or
he did that Texas Blood. I've heard a bunch of good stuff about that book. I've never read it.
he did Philadelphia too, I think, or right? Is that it?
Rodney Barnes, I think, does
Oh, I'm
Philadelphia.
thinking Ronnie Barnes, my bad.
But
Uh but yeah, what's really weird about it is I love how the Ultimates and like DC are like kind of because Chris Condon is like now doing Green Arrow as well.
oh shoot, I didn't even know he was doing Green Arrow.
Yeah, he's the one doing Green Arrow after Williamson.
Dang,
So
that's tight. Um, he there was something else that he did, and I cannot remember for the life of me what it was. If I remember, I'll bring it up. But yeah, it's interesting. I'm
yeah.
definitely interested in checking it out. The solicitation on it reads that he's the Winter Soldier of this universe.
So Wolverine is also the Winter Soldier.
Yeah, well, because you have Magic and Colossus
Well,
and
that kind of makes sense with
Mega
this.
Red.
I was wondering why that star was on his
Yeah,
outfit.
like the Red
That kind of
Star.
makes
Yeah.
sense. Yeah.
So he's like, I mean, it's very in line with Logan's regular origin. Like he's a government experiment, you know. It's
But
a
it's
cool
not
concept.
Logan, is it? It's not like
It kind of looks like it could be Logan. So, I mean, it'll be less like Winter Soldier Bucky and more so maybe they just found him and experimented on him in Russia and or whatever this world's version of Russia is.
yeah, because there's a lot you could do with that. He had an adamantium arm anyway, right? Or was it vibranium?
I don't recall.
It's one of those. But it'd be cool if he had an adamantium arm in this one
Yeah.
instead
I
of
mean,
vibranium if it is vibranium.
and the kind of makes it seem like maybe that he doesn't really remember that he's doing all of these things. So maybe they're mind wiping him or brainwashing him.
That's
Like
pretty
he like
cool. So
like
he's like a
because I mean he
sleeper,
is
sleeper.
Canadian, right?
Yeah.
So
So
maybe they found him or the maker found him, gave them to his council and said, "Hey, do whatever the hell you want with this guy." But then they're like, "Oh, we'll just Winter Soldier his ass and we'll make sure that he doesn't remember all the awful things that he does."
Yeah, I'll make it my assignment next week, guys. I'm gonna go and I'm gonna look through my Ultimate Invasion this week and just kind of look through all the graphics that Jonathan Hickman likes to do to see if there is a reference.
Which, okay, like ta complete tangent. The fact that they're gonna do those kinds of data pages in New Gods has me tripping, bro.
Oh my God.
It's
Oh
gonna
my
be sick
God.
because the fact that Ram was like, "Hey Hickman, how do you do all this stuff?"
Yeah,
I'm
I
so I'm
love that.
so excited for that. Every time I hear something new about New Gods, I'm like, "Let's go!" I'm
Oh
so
my
ready.
God, dude. And just
So
Evan,
ready.
like even the art that I'm seeing, the preview art by Evan Cagle is just
Dude,
mind blowing. Like
it's insane, dude.
I can't like now that I've seen it, like I can't imagine a more perfect artist for this
Dude,
title.
like the pages of Orion fighting those like fighting the parademons,
Yeah,
it's
dude.
just kicks ass, dude.
Yeah, I can't wait to see how he draws New Genesis, how he draws Apocalypse, how dude,
And
it's
that word balloon interview was a pretty good like I like that they touched upon the 9 panel thing, which is what something they used to do all the time, and that's how it's like
of
traditionally been done, especially like when Mr. Miracle came out, they continued with
course.
that, you know.
Yeah.
So like the fact that we're getting like a huge break in that and it's gonna be just like Evan Cagle like putting pedal to the metal,
Yeah.
sick, dude.
Yeah. Because even these covers are gorgeous. Like that one cover that they have where they're in front of the source wall, it's just like, what the this is
Yeah,
awesome.
dude,
Th-
it's gonna be so sick. But all right, enough about other stuff.
Yeah.
The Ultimates, number 5.
Yes.
Uh, dude, this book is like unstoppable, bro.
Dude, I love everything about this book from the art to the colors. Like this, I love the feel of this book. The way it just feels different. It feels like, the way
Yeah.
the colors look, the way the art looks. It's just, I don't know.
What's
I'm really loving the feel of this whole title right now.
the
Like,
this first page where it's just the two quotes?
yeah,
You kind of you already know what you're stepping into with
yeah.
this issue because like I would argue that this one is probably the most politically charged.
Oh, yeah. But
Um,
I think that's kind of the thing that Dennis Camp is doing here with
yeah,
Captain America. Because if you remember, other before that, when he was talking about America Chavez, they were talking about America in general, and now it's basically like the metaphor of America and the Native American.
yeah,
So it's
right,
really cool. I like that Dennis Camp is like doing this symbolism thing of America, even though
yeah.
America
It's
technically doesn't exist.
right, and I think that's an important part of this, at least of this like first year of the Ultimates, you know, because they're still, for all intents and purposes, this team is still like an insurgency. They're like a revolutionary group. They are going against the entire world, pretty much as everyone knows it. You know, for however long the world has operated this way because of the Maker's plans and what he's done, and his finger being in every pie.
Right.
Uh, it's not anything like what Steve is used to. So he's having to let go of this notion that, my America, basically, like, like he really has to let go of the fact that things are different. And the only way that he can be Captain America is by just upholding those values and just being the best hero that he could possibly be.
Right. And I like the difference with because normally like Cap gets out of the ice and he's in a different America anyway, but it's like this is a Cap that comes out of the ice and there's no America. There's
Right.
like he's the last symbol, like it seems like for the free world, like that we
Yeah.
used to have.
Right. Exactly. Because I mean, the entire world is technically under the Maker's thumb now.
Right. Or, or his like council, whatever. But
Yeah. Right.
it's this is I'm loving that the Ultimate is bringing so many fresh ideas. The Ultimate Universe in general, they're not just gender swapping people. They're not just, you know what I mean? They're not giving it to the same person, but gender swap. Like it's like,
Right. Right. Or it's not like, hey, we're giving this person this character's role or this power, like,
right.
and because I feel like we see that a lot, and it's really easy to just do that for the sake of doing it, for like the
Right.
sake of change.
Because
But
we even see in here that this is Charlie, but they talk about Clint saying like, no, I don't want to be Hawkeye in this universe. Like they
yeah,
talk about that they went to Clint and he like was just like, no.
Right. Which for those that don't know, like Clint was originally not like he was not a hero
Right.
when they found him.
Yeah, he was first like kind of a villain. Like
Yeah.
kind of yeah.
So it's not like out of the realm of possibility for Clint to be like, nah, man, I don't give a shit about being a hero.
Right.
Like that's not what I'm about.
Yeah.
Um, and hey, this book might be the better for it because it gives us a new perspective, for for a lot of us and for this team, like in terms of like what's happening on the ground,
Yeah.
because it's despite and here's the thing is like none of these people other than Hank and Janet are like regular everyday citizens. You
Right.
know what I mean?
Right.
Like Tony, rich, basically had his ass wiped for him up until his dad died. Steve, like literally now living legend, man out of time, came from a completely different world.
Right.
You've got She-Hulk, who's literally just been living on that monster island
Right.
practically your whole life. You've got Thor and Sif, who come from a completely different world altogether. They're magical beings. You don't have anybody that's like just somebody that just grew up in this shitty world,
Right.
basically. You have
My
Hawkeye.
yeah. Yeah. And my biggest question of all this is America Chavez, what universe is she from?
I don't know, man.
That's one question I want to see answered because it's like
But
I
issue
wonder if
eight
this is 616 that just jumped to this universe and got caught or something.
is possible. I
Yeah.
I what I before we get too deep into this, it's interesting to see Tony basically feel like he failed.
Yeah.
You know, he's like, well, I can't. Like, he's like, oh, I missed. It is what it is. Like, we have to get the stuff away from them because they're causing too much damage.
Right.
But Steve doesn't see it that way. Steve sees this as an opportunity to bring them on board and show Tony, hey, this was the person for the job, regardless.
Right.
This is who it was meant to go to. Um, and I like their like banter every single time. Tony and Steve, they always have like good dialogue between the two
Yeah.
of them, even if they don't agree.
Right.
It's like it kind of feels like 616 Tony and Steve. Like even if they don't agree, they're still willing to talk it out and you know basically prove to the other one like, hey, either you were wrong or I was wrong, but doing it in like them like in a respectful way.
Right.
Not just like shit on him like, hey, yeah, look, I told you so.
Right.
Uh, and that's representative of like the fact that they're both two good leaders and
Yep.
for this team. Um, One thing before I forget about America, she's gonna be like the main part of issue 8
Who?
with the Guardians when they show up. America will be.
Oh, that's cool. Hell yeah.
So they're coming from the future, the Guardians of the Galaxy are. And
Right.
they're I think they said it's a far-flung future where the Maker's influence like is not around anymore. So what that means, I don't know. Uh,
Wow.
and maybe it's because of the stuff that's been happening since the Maker got trapped in the city has allowed these potential futures to kind of come into play. Because when we had just like before any of this happened, the only time travel we got was from Kang, and it was sending the Ultimates back through time. So
Yeah.
do you think that because of the Maker being trapped for X amount of like the 2 years he'll be trapped for, is it giving like the timelines enough wiggle room to like feel out potential futures, and we're starting to see some of those effects come back?
I think so. Because if you remember, he was constantly getting attacked by the future in Ultimate Invasion. Constantly.
Right. But it was always just Kang. It
Yeah.
made it seem like Kang was the only future route possible because of how tight the Maker had a grip on everything.
Right.
So maybe since he's not really around at this point, things are looser and they're able to change in some form or fashion.
Right.
So I don't know. I
That's
mean, regardless, the fact that we're getting the Guardians of the Galaxy like not even 10 issues into this is a trip, dude.
yeah, dude. If anything happens to Cosmo, I will riot. I will write. Like, man, I love
Yeah,
comics.
I can't do any more dog stories, man.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can't do anymore. S- Not to like go on a huge tangent, but I was talking to somebody in the shop yesterday about like we were just talking about We Three, and then it got me talking about when I was reading Astro City, there's a two issue arc. I think it's 47 and 48 of the most recent run. You don't even need to read anything else in Astro City, and you could read those two issues. I wanted to just lock myself in my room after that because it was when did I read it? In the summer sometime. And yeah, when I got those like through those two issues, it's just because like basically it's this guy he steals a dog because somebody owes him money.
Mhm.
But then you come to find out he's also a thief and he owes the same guy. So like he this guy over here that who stole the dog, he wants this money back from the other guy. But the other guy owes him money and he owes money to another guy that the
Ah,
guy that stole they both owe money to this other guy.
right.
So it becomes this like, he stole because he didn't get his money, but he's also like in the same position as the guy that he stole from. But then he steals like an amulet and it gives him powers, but it doesn't do anything for the first couple days, and then the dog like bops its nose on it, and then they like merge,
Oh,
and so they become a hero. And basically all of his heroic instincts come from the dog.
oh, that's awesome.
So like the dog, like he'll like try and use the powers to like break into somewhere, and the dog's like like he's like something is telling me that I can't do this.
That's
And then you
awesome.
basically find out it's the dog, and the dog's like speaking to him telepathically, saying like, good, we're good boys."
We're good. Oh, that's awesome. I'm about to say, he's like, no, we're good.
Yeah,
We're a good
yeah,
boy. We can't,
yeah.
yeah.
Because then he ends up raising this dog and keeping it, and then they start going by G Dog, and they like are like an actual hero, and they go around town.
Oh, that's cool.
But it's hella sad at the end, bro.
Oh
Oh
no.
my God, it just ruined
Oh
me
no. I can't
because,
do animals, man. I can't do
dude,
animals.
yes, and it's like you kind of expect it from the get-go, but also like you don't expect it to be like two issues of this great story, and then you're like, no,
Right.
because it's not like anything tragic. It's just the dog gets old,
No.
and they had been doing this for years,
Oh
and you're like, stop it! I can't read
no.
anymore. But you don't want to stop until you get to the end, and you're like, oh man,
Oh no.
it's
Yeah.
great, dude. It's so good. But yeah, like I every time I talk about like a dog story, I just think about those two issues now. Ever since then, I'm like, dude,
Yeah, dude.
it, it got me. It
Even
got me.
fictional animals just kill
Yeah,
me.
seriously, man.
Mm-mm.
But I back to the Ultimates. This this fight was good, man. The
Yeah.
fight between him and Hawkeye was really good.
Yeah. I like how Cap was basically I like how Cap was doing different things to get around the arrows,
Mhm.
but more importantly was the dialogue that they were having and the whole dynamic of America and Native Americans.
Yeah, I right. And I when I posted about this last week, uh, it's very politically driven.
Yeah,
Like their whole fight as a whole, like all the dialogue, the ways that they're fighting, everything about it just screams like political intrigue, which there are some people out there that for whatever reason are just like, keep my politics out of my comic books. And it's like, sorry, buddy, it's
yeah.
not gonna happen
There, if
because half these heroes are grounded in the real world.
right,
Like Marvel is not the like if you want that, DC is probably the brand for you. You don't get a whole lot of political charge stuff in DC because it's a very fictional world. That's not, this is also a fictional world, but it is very grounded in our real world.
right. The way I try to always say it is DC is God's trying to be human, and Marvel is the opposite. Humans trying to be
Right.
God.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, bar the few exceptions on each side where you have the actual God characters, but those universes don't really work, I don't think, without those upper echelons.
Right,
But yeah, in terms of Marvel, you're always going to have some kind of religious, political, socio-economical, backing in these books.
right.
because that's how else are you going to portray the real world in a fictional way?
Exactly.
Um, so that being said, I know some people are, gonna feel some kind of way about the character Hawkeye. And I think and I won't talk about it, too long. I'll just touch on it briefly. I think it is fine.
I think it's great. I think it's
It
exclusionary for Native Americans. The idea of the two spirits has been around forever. I got into it yesterday with a couple people just because they were trying to say that two spirit is something that was created in the 90s, which isn't the case. The term of it was created in the 90s.
yeah, but like
But
the
the
what it
idea of
actually
it
is,
has been around since even before America was founded. That idea of having two spirits it's ingrained in that culture.
right. And so whether or not it got its name recently or it's been around for thousands of years, who
This was before anybody cried woke. This is way
yeah,
before that,
yeah.
you
So
know.
like I'm also not one to like put too much weight into that kind of stuff anyway. Like if it's fitting for the story, great.
Yeah.
I'm invested. I will see where it goes. But regardless, at the end of the day, they're fucking fake, dude.
It's a fictional character's gender identity, and if that upsets you, I think it says more about you.
It's also time to maybe close the book and go outside, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was that. I figured we would just get that out of the way
Yeah.
because that was part of the book and it was a lot of there's a topic of discussion about it last week.
Hmm.
And whatever. If you like it, cool. Continue reading this book. If you don't like it, be quiet and don't read this book anymore if it bothers you that much. The
Right.
end. What I did really like about this fight as a whole was the arrows bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like every time he uses switches arrows, it's very who it's the fraction Hawkeye run where you see like how he uses the different arrows and like
Yeah.
tell what they are. It kind of reminded me of that.
Yeah. I could
Like
totally see that.
so
Yeah,
it
because it's
was
even done the same way where it closes up in like a circle and it kind
yeah,
of
repulsor
same
arrow,
thing. Yeah.
Sonic Screamer arrow, like all these
Yeah.
different arrows.
I'm sure Dennis Camp loved that run. I mean, that is like the most defining Hawkeye run
Yeah,
ever. So,
cluster bomb, knockout gas, freeze, acid, and he's just going to town on him, man. Like he is.
yeah. Well, not even that. Like the town that they're in is all blown to hell because of Charlie. He just kind of blew up Roxxon like to
Yeah,
bit.
I mean, good.
Yeah.
Screw rocks on.
Yeah.
Hate them.
Yep.
They're ruining the planet.
Absolutely.
We got a Roxxon here in the real world. They're called Chevron.
Yeah.
Industrial taser arrow, razor arrow. Yeah, there's so many, man.
Yeah.
It's and it's cool to watch Cap like as the fight goes on, he's like learning and having to figure out ways around it because he's just constantly being pinned down.
Right.
And then they obviously come to a stalemate, and then they have to decide that it's time to fight you know, these mercenaries, not each other.
Right. Well, I think it's funny too because this whole time it's kind of like the cowboy and Indian thing. That's how Charlie's
Yeah,
talking to him. It's like he's
yeah,
talking to him like constantly calling him cowboy, all this stuff, and it's really cool the way that they get into the dynamic where it's like, you Gary Cooper looking MFer and I'm the Indian. You know what I mean? It's like
yeah.
like it's really cool to see.
And it's and I like that Cap could have so easily been like, oh, you can, like could have been that way.
Right.
But instead, he's patient, which is reflective of when they meet in 616
Right.
and like that whole origin of how, Cap kind of folds Hawkeye into the fray, brings him on board, vouches for him, and shows him like, hey, like there are other heroes out here that can do
Right.
good.
Total Superman move. But
Bro,
yeah.
yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
you know.
Which like I'll be honest, Cap has never ranked among my favorite heroes.
Right.
Like he's just kind of there. He's cool. I like him. But like this version of Cap, I really, really enjoy.
Me too.
It's nice to see something like because you have the original Ultimate Captain America, who is just this awful ass person.
Yeah, dude. He was
And then
that
you've
that
got
ultimate cap was he was awful.
yeah. So like this Cap could have easily turned out that way, especially given the fact that there is not an America today, in
Right.
6160. So it's
Right.
nice to see like given all the chances, he's just taking like the opportunities to learn and better himself and just do everything he can to know the world that he's in now and not necessarily be so hung up on the past
Right.
because who knows like that he could have gone the complete opposite direction.
Yeah.
Um and of course the tradition of either Cap being in a headlock or putting somebody in a headlock continues here.
Yeah.
It seems like every issue of this run so far, he's put somebody in a headlock or he's been in a headlock.
Yeah. Even when he first broke out and they were like, yeah, America's not around
Yeah,
anymore.
they have to like hold him down. Yeah.
Yeah.
The issue of this cover of issue 2 is Tony grabbing him by the neck
Yeah.
and just like holding him back.
Yeah.
Hey man, I'm here for it. Every issue, give me something new with it. I'm down.
Yeah.
Too funny. But
But pretty much
yeah,
Cap pretty much tells Charlie that like, I didn't come here to fight you. We just want the weapons back, and you can't be older than 16. He's like, how old were you when you put on the suit and took a stand?
right.
And he's like, I guess it's different between you and me. So what you get to be the hero and Tony Stark gets to be the hero. The guy who threw all this stuff away, he gets to be the hero. But me, I don't meet the criteria. I fail a test or something. We always
Right.
fail their test. The math never works out in our favor. Oof. Oof. you know?
I mean, yeah, and when dialogue is written well because it's not really something that you can argue with. You know what I
Exactly.
mean? Like it's like, damn, he's right. He's
Yeah.
like, I mean, hey, and like what reason other than I'm Native American do you have that I'm not worthy of these weapons or of this title or of this power?
Right. And you can't say I'm too young because Tony's young. Look how young you were. Look.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, exactly. America, she's young.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, so any argument that they could have put against Charlie is null and void,
Right.
from the get, which I really like because he like Charlie is just proving like I deserve this. This is
Right.
something that this is something like my people needs. Like we need this.
Right. And it's kind of also a thing like he's telling the symbol of America, like, this is the last thing I have left. Do not take this from me.
Yeah,
You, as the white guy from America, do not take this from me. This is all I
right,
have.
right. Yeah. I This last bit is really, really good, man. Where he is like, oh, he's like, oh, like, do you want your arrows back? And he's like, nah, I was never gonna take them back. I just wanted to be sure before I told Iron Lad. He's like, what are you gonna tell him that he didn't miss? And then he's all like, hey, is your spirit name really Charlie Hawkseyes? He's like, you white people will believe anything.
So true. Oh,
I bet you Cap's just like, I should have sucked the shit out of this guy. Like,
yeah.
sucked him when I had the chance. Oh man.
Yeah, that's incredible.
This last page is a zinger, dude. It was really cool.
Yeah.
With that's Roberto DaCosta, right? That's Sunspot,
We're at the end.
where he's talking
Yeah.
to that has to be.
Yeah. That's what it looks like.
So uh I think that's cool, man. The Hulk is finally gonna make his play.
Yeah. And that cover for the next issue looks great too.
Yeah, dude, with him like sitting down and
Well, it's
holding
great because this is like the pacifist monk immortal Hulk, and like,
finally yeah, throwing hands, man.
yeah,
Yeah,
I'm really excited because like we're getting the Makers Council in this, and then in Spider-Man we're getting basically the Sinister Six with the Burrows that work under Kingpin, who works for the Maker. I don't know, it just feels so natural in this world that everything's happening, and it feels so
yeah,
lived in with each other. They're
yeah,
nailed.
because like and even now, like Black Panther was relatively self-contained, up until just the last couple issues. But with the introduction of like this new Sorcerer Supreme
Which we still don't know
and
who it is.
yeah,
Yeah,
and some of the other like things that are happening in that book, they're they're pushing out really fast,
yeah.
like to expand into the rest of the Ultimate Universe.
Well, one thing I'm glad that they're not doing is they're not rushing it. Like we're still having like 14 months left or 13 months left. So we're really there. It's not going to be this rush thing because if there's
I'm so glad that this is happening in real time.
yeah,
Like it, I feel like had they fallen into, well, let's just make it into like a year-long event, or like let's do this and let's rush to the next part. Like I don't think that you would be able to get Hickman on this if you didn't let him do it the way that he wanted.
right. And I mean, it's such a breath of fresh air because everything with DC for the past 2 years have been like whiplash. It's like one
Yeah.
event after the other. It's Dark Crisis,
Well,
it's
like,
Lazarus Planet,
and I
it's
said
Night
this
Terror,
recently,
Beast
and I
World.
mean, yeah, I said this recently. I maintain this stance. We're in an era of comics where it's not event, it's there's no events anymore. It's just we're just we're in events all the time.
Yeah,
There's never not an event going on or an event that leads into another event. We're just in like lull stages of stuff now.
yeah.
Like give me years without an event. You know what I mean? Like I would rather that and then you can give me some big ass event at the end.
Like DC, please, like wait at least like 2 to 3 more years for the eventual Absolute Crisis because you know we're gonna get that.
Yes,
The name is too perfect to not use. Absolute Crisis. It's gonna happen.
right. I my fear is we're gonna get an event this next year.
I hope not. I want
We're,
I
I
want I want the world to build. I want you
My
know
one hope is that we don't get an absolute event at all. Is that we just let these books run their course, and when it's time for them to meet back in the middle with Prime Earth, then that can be the event.
right.
But like, I just don't think that that's going to happen. I just don't know, man.
Yeah.
Because
Well,
ultimately,
Darkseid did say he's going to go back to that Earth and crush it. So I imagine eventually that will be a
yeah,
crisis.
like, and my hope is that they stick to this. Well, the Prime Earth is cut off from the rest of the multiverse, and it everything that happens here is only happening here. And there's not some okay, let me backtrack. If there's an event that's like makes sense to do, like
Yeah.
the Olgrin stuff
Yeah.
and the everything that's been going on with United Planets, which is being built up a lot in Green Lantern. But if that's the next event, I can't be angry about that because that's
Right.
something I've been asking for. It just
Well, that's been developing for years anyway.
right,
PKJ has been
right.
setting that up for
So at least that makes sense to turn into an event. But to basically just do Lazarus Planet, Beast World, because everybody and their mom has an event idea. Like, kiss my ass, dude. Like,
yeah, man. It went
sock it
from
away.
Dark Crisis to Lazarus Planet to Night Terrors to Beast World to Absolute Power, and then the All In special. And to be honest with you, that Absolute Power to all that House of Brainiac to Absolute Power to All In was the most jarring.
It's just
Like,
it's just like when events are happening like every single week, it feels like, or I'm in an event every single week. It's not fun anymore.
right?
It's not like they're not exciting. It's just another book that I have to read to keep
Yeah,
up. Like Secret Wars, there's a reason why it's such a banger, man. Like it took years for them for Hickman to build that up. And it was 9 solid issues. Like I mean 10 if you include the zero issue. It's
right.
just 10 issues of just straight gas.
Yep.
So like and then after that you get shit like is Secret Empire, Civil War 2, and it's what the part depending on how you feel about either of those, it's just
Secret
it all just
Invasion 2, whatever.
that wasn't even an event, dude. It was just a random mini series that didn't mean anything.
Yeah, it's just
It was just came out right. Well, what happened with that? That was company synergy, my man. Is they
yeah,
said, "Yo, we got a show coming out in the next year. We better put out this book." And I'm like,
yeah,
"You're so hooked."
yeah. I mean,
Uh,
Hickman was just all build up, no gimmicks, just all just.
right. Which like
I'm trying to tell this incredible story that I've built up since I started Fantastic Four.
right. And like that thing that Ram said that when he had that conversation with Hickman is like write an event and don't tell anybody about it.
That brilliant.
Brilliant, dude. It's just this, it's brilliant because if you're writing a story with like that kind of way and like you have like an endpoint, your event, everything else you're gonna get there. You're gonna write it to that point. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So that that almost that should be the industry standard, man.
yeah,
Like, and if you can't plan multiple years of storytelling, maybe you only should be on a miniseries.
Right.
You know, again, this is why people are so like desperate to have the top names on the top books
Right.
because there's a reason why these creators are they're so beloved
Yeah.
because they tell good stories. They understand these characters. They get paired with good artists that know that will fit the story well. You know, and Hickman is basically, I would say, the blueprint for that. And at least
Oh yeah.
now, for
Yeah.
modern comic storytelling and in that fashion, there's like nobody better.
I mean, it's safe to say that Secret Wars 2015 is probably the best event we've had, like in the
Oh,
20. Like,
I would argue it's Marvel's best event ever.
yeah, I'm talking Marvel and DC. I think that that is top tier, and I'm
I
more of a
mean,
DC fan,
yeah.
but I think that is a perfect.
Yeah, and it's weird because I haven't read it in so long, but the only other event that I can that at least matches that quality for me is Blackest Night.
Yeah. Oh yeah. 100%.
I think Blackest Night is phenomenal.
Yeah.
But I also think when I was reading, like during that time, I wasn't reading a whole lot. I mean, I was still in school, you know? So I think like at that point I was just kind of reading the stuff that I found interesting. I was mainly just binging the shit out of Wade's Flash and Flash
Oh
from that
yeah.
era. So like,
Well,
but
I
yeah,
have all of Jeff Johns' Green Lantern runs, so
yeah.
if you don't want
I
to
mean
read,
that's it's on the list, so I'll get to it eventually. But and I've read bits and pieces of that to get like the context for Blackest Night when I read that for the first time. But damn, dude, like yeah, I would say it's a very far second, I think.
yeah.
Secret Wars.
But I mean, the reason why Black as Night was so good is because they let Jeff Johns just cook and
Again,
simmer and
years
just
and
build.
years of
Yeah,
buildup. And it's crazy that I you can even say that because like in today's comic culture, it's almost impossible to get that.
that's why I think this, as much as that Nightwing run had problems, we had a 4 year run of that, and I would be
Yeah,
surprised if we never. I wouldn't be surprised if we never get that again because that's
yeah,
so unheard of.
right. Shoot, I can't even think of. I mean, the only other long-term run that we've seen like that was Rams Detective, Adams Flash, but even then, that's like 30 issues, man. That
Yeah,
wasn't even like it was a few years, you know. Like you
yeah,
had 50 issues or so of this Nightwing run, practically.
yeah, and I mean,
Um,
with the annuals too, and special tie-ins for other things. You know what I mean? It
yeah,
was a big
yeah.
run.
I mean, and now like thinking about all these different runs, the only other one I can think of that had like a really like strong finish that finished in an event would be Aaron's Thor.
Yeah,
'Cause he had War of the Realms and that finished in an event.
yeah,
Um, I mean, you had King in Black, which was built up over several years, multiple books, but it's different. It's a different climate in comics today.
I agree.
Maybe one day we'll get back to the like real long form stuff, you know.
I hope so.
But all right, we're out of time, guys. Thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you next week.
All right.
Peace out. We'll talk
Later on,
Nightwing next week.
guys.
I'll
Yeah.